Join our family of creators. Your support means the world to us. Subscribe now to the Content Creator channel. Your support keeps us motivated and helps us bring you fresh, exciting content every week. Hit that subscribe button and be part of our journey. The calendar read May 21st, 2025. President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa arrived at the White House for talks meant to bolster vital bilateral relations. Instead, the Oval Office became a theater of the absurd. President Donald Trump orchestrated a confrontation, a jarring departure from diplomatic norms. The meeting was intended to cover trade, investment, and mutual interests. Yet, the agenda was swiftly derailed by Trump, intent on provocation. The presence of figures like Elon Musk, known for his controversial takes on South Africa, added to the unusual atmosphere. Trump launched into an attack, speaking of a white genocide in South Africa, a term favored by far-right groups and demonstrably false. This moment laid bare the fragility of truth in modern political discourse. For Ramaphosa, it was a test of composure. For U.S.-South Africa relations, a significant blow. The world watched as a superpower's leader amplified discredited conspiracy theories. This was not about genuine concern for any South African community, but about pandering to a specific political base. The stage was set for a diplomatic crisis, manufactured in the heart of Washington. It was a sad day for international relations. The implications were immediate and far-reaching. The air, thick with expectation, quickly turned sour. Donald Trump's presentation was a masterclass in misinformation. He unveiled a video montage filled with emotionally charged imagery and brandished printed materials. These purported to show evidence of a systematic slaughter of white farmers in South Africa. Experts have repeatedly debunked these claims. Yet Trump pushed this narrative with conviction, impervious to factual correction. The evidence itself was a collection of falsehoods. One prominent image was footage from the Democratic Republic of Congo, unrelated to South Africa. He also misrepresented a video from a 2020 protest. White crosses in the video were described as a burial site, a deliberate distortion. Clips of controversial South African opposition figures singing struggle songs were played, ignoring their historical context. The sources Trump relied upon were equally dubious, including articles from partisan blogs. This reliance on fringe sources in a formal diplomatic meeting was astonishing. It demonstrated a profound disregard for established protocols. The truth was a secondary concern, if a concern at all. This episode highlighted the dangers of echo chambers. Trump appeared to be consuming and then amplifying narratives from the darkest corners of the internet. The term white genocide is a tool of white supremacist groups used to stoke racial fear and resentment. For the US president to legitimize such a term was irresponsible. It lent credence to a dangerous and divisive ideology. The impact on global perceptions of South Africa was immediate and damaging. President Cyril Ramaphosa's response was a study in contrast. Faced with a barrage of accusations, he remained calm and methodically refuted the allegations. He chose the path of dignity and reason. Ramaphosa directly addressed the genocide claim, stating unequivocally there is no genocide in South Africa. He emphasized his government's commitment to constitutional land reform. This policy aims to correct the legacy of apartheid's land dispossession. His professionalism stood in stark relief to Trump's theatrics. Many South Africans watching from afar felt a sense of pride. The fallout from the Oval Office meeting was swift. Reactions poured in from across the globe, with many expressing disbelief. Seasoned diplomats and political commentators were aghast. This episode represented a new low in diplomatic decorum. The use of such inflammatory language by a world leader was deeply concerning. It set a dangerous precedent. The Washington Post and other credible media outlets voiced serious concerns. This was not an isolated incident but part of a broader pattern. Trump's rhetoric often played on division and fear. The South Africa controversy was another example of this strategy. It served to energize his base and risked inflaming racial tensions. The line between domestic politics and foreign policy had become dangerously blurred. However, not all reactions were critical. White South African right-wing groups were jubilant, seeing Trump as a champion of their cause. MAGA commentators in the US echoed this applause. They readily accepted the white genocide narrative. Elon Musk had previously made controversial statements supporting the conspiracy theory of white farmer persecution. His presence seemed to validate Trump's stance. This divergence in reactions highlighted deep societal divisions. It showed how misinformation can take root and be amplified by those with powerful platforms. The episode became a rallying cry for certain groups. For others, it was a moment of profound disillusionment. The truth about South Africa's complex realities was lost in the noise. It was a victory for propaganda, and a loss for reasoned debate and mutual understanding. This recent Oval Office incident fits into a disturbing pattern of behavior from Donald Trump regarding South Africa. His understanding of the country, its history, and its complexities has long been questionable. Back in 2020, his former lawyer Michael Cohen made startling allegations. Cohen claimed Trump had made deeply derogatory comments about Nelson Mandela, calling the global icon of reconciliation no leader. Trump also reportedly disparaged post-apartheid South Africa in general, according to Cohen. These remarks, if true, reveal a profound ignorance and a lack of respect for a nation that overcame decades of brutal oppression. The African National Congress and the Nelson Mandela Foundation condemned these alleged comments. This historical context shows the May 2025 confrontation was not out of character. The claims of white genocide are not supported by facts. In February 2025, a South African judge dismissed the very idea, calling it clearly imagined. Recent crime statistics paint a different picture. Between October and December 2024, there were 6,953 murders in South Africa. Of these, 12 victims were killed in farm attacks. While every death is a tragedy, these numbers do not suggest a targeted genocide. The narrative is largely driven by fringe groups and international commentators. Trump chose to amplify this fringe narrative, ignoring the nuanced reality of crime and land reform in a democratic South Africa. The immediate aftermath of the Oval Office showdown brought tangible consequences. President Trump, incensed by Ramaphosa's rebuttal, announced a freeze on U.S. aid to South Africa. He cited alleged racial discrimination against Afrikaners, misrepresenting South Africa's land reform policies. These policies aim to correct historical imbalances, not to discriminate. The aid freeze felt more like retaliation than a principled stand. This move was widely criticized internationally, seen as an attempt to bully a sovereign nation. It also threatened to undermine years of development cooperation. U.S. aid supports crucial programs in South Africa, addressing health, education, and economic development. Cutting this aid would harm ordinary South Africans and do little to address the complex issue of land. The diplomatic fallout extended beyond aid. The entire U.S.-South Africa relationship entered a deep chill. Trade discussions became strained and diplomatic engagement grew frosty. Collaboration on regional and global issues suffered. Trump even expressed doubts about attending the upcoming G20 summit in South Africa. Such a boycott would be a significant snub, further isolating the U.S. from a key African partner. The damage was accumulating rapidly. The controversy also shone a light on South Africa's land reform efforts. President Ramaphosa signed a new land reform law in January 2025 to accelerate the redistribution of land. This law aims to address deep-seated inequalities inherited from apartheid. However, the law is not without its critics within South Africa. The Democratic Alliance, Ramaphosa's main coalition partner, has condemned it. This internal debate is complex. Trump's intervention oversimplified and distorted the issue for his own purposes. Despite the diplomatic storm, President Ramaphosa's delegation tried to maintain focus. Their primary mission was to promote trade and investment. South Africa possesses critical minerals vital for future technologies. Ramaphosa came with a clear proposal to strengthen economic ties. This pragmatic approach, even in the face of provocation, was noteworthy. It showed a commitment to South Africa's national interests and an attempt to rise above the political theater. The entire episode serves as a cautionary tale. It demonstrates how easily misinformation can poison international relations. The U.S.-South Africa relationship, once a beacon of post-apartheid hope, now faces a period of uncertainty. Rebuilding that trust will require significant effort from both sides. The future of this vital partnership hangs in the balance.